I call the 175, and now the big blind overcalls one.
What's up? We are at River Room Social Club today, their grand opening, and this place is packed. Hopefully we get into some crazy action. Let's go.
Look at that line. The very first hand, I'm in the cutoff and sit down and look at ace queen offsuit. Decent start, 2 limps, it's 1-2, so I raise the $13. I get 4 callers, so I can't win. So let's move on to the next hand. Psych, the flop's 10-7-3. Check to the button. He bets $15. Someone check raises to $60, and of course I fold. How about we try ace king? Someone thinks $6 is an actual raise in 1-2. I have cash on me, and I'm not messing around with no bullshito. I re-raise to $26. He calls. We're heads up to a flop that's 10-10 deuce. He checks. I see bet $35, and he folds.
Yeah.
You raised my big blind?
Well,
Why would you do? Why would you do this? Why are you doing this to yourself? Yeah. Oh, check.
what's out there?
Check. 15. The queen didn't worry you? You must have jacks.
Jacks is a good thing, but
Check.
I don't like that. It's too much.
I know you didn't.
Of course you did, yeah. You hit the one outer, you know?
Well, I mean, I had top pair.
No, you're way behind. When the queen came, but
I was ahead on the flop.
He ain't backing down now.
So allegedly he checks back king queen and claims I hit a 1-outer. I don't understand. I don't know how this happened, but the very next hand I'm on the button, even though I was just in the big blind. I feel like there was a mistake made there, or someone got up and the button moved. But we looked down at 4-5 of hearts, and on the button I raised to $11. Thinking back, I don't really know why I only made it 11. I feel like it should have been more like 15 because my hand's a little weaker. But either way, I get 2 callers, small blind and middle position. The flop is jack of hearts, 8 of hearts, king of clubs. Small blind now donk leads for $11. Very weird. Middle position calls the $11. And as the pre-flop raiser, I feel like I can rep a much stronger range than the small blind would donk lead here. Plus, I have equity if it doesn't work out. I raised to $40. The small blind makes the call, and middle position folds. I appreciate middle position's $22 donation to this pot. The turn is bingo, the 3 of hearts. Small blind checks. I go for a smallerish turn bet here of $40, and the small blind calls. The river is a board pairing jack. Small blind checks again. Looking back, my baby flush is strong enough to bet this river for $100 as played. I think it is. I think in this situation, I need to go over, would he really check a full house here? Probably not. Maybe a better flush. Maybe he's trapping. But I don't really see him ever leading here on this flop with jack 8 or something along those lines. So this is a pretty silly check back here by me. I missed lots of value. But I think a lot of players would check this back here, and that's when we should be getting value and getting better at this game. After that pot, stack's sitting around 435. We were up and down a little bit, but let's get into the meat and potatoes of this episode. There is 1 limp. I'm sitting with a stack of about 380, and I look down at king jack of spades in the cutoff. Completely fine to open here, and I raise to $15. Only the limper calls. The villain is a regular around Houston who I have some history with. He's an older Asian gentleman. It's heads up to a flop that comes 10-6-3 with 2 spades. Very good flop. I'm in position, or heads up, and he checks it to us. I see bet $25. I'm trying to take it down right here. If not, I definitely plan on firing multiple streets with 2 overs and a flush draw here. The villain calls the $25, and the turn is a 4 of clubs. Not the card we wanted to see, but nonetheless, I don't think it's a terrible card. He checks again, and I think this is a great board in general to double barrel with. A decent sizing, so trying to take the pot down again here on the turn, I bet $55. The villain pauses for a few moments before deciding to check raise us to $200. Well, we have a breakdown, folks. First, what is villain's value range when he limp calls pre, check calls flop, and check raises turn on this board? 2 pair? I mean, the combos are unlikely. Almost no 2 pair combos containing a 10. Sets, yeah, he could always have sets, 6s, deuces, or 4s. 3-5 for the turn gutter ball straight. I guess anything's possible here in Houston. The sad part is that everything in his value we are currently losing to. Sizing, though, would he go this large? I mean, I wouldn't. Wouldn't he want me to call? Like, why would he go so large with a set? I feel like a size of 135 to 160 would be more value heavy. Exploits, does this player bluff? The answer is yes, and I have seen it many times. He is capable of having lots of strong hands here, but he's also capable of turning his hand into bluffs if he thinks he can fold out better pairs. He could have ace 10, king 10, queen 10, jack 10, maybe even 9-10 here. These hands are all ahead of us currently, but all of the suited combinations have no spades since the 10 of spades is on the board, which is good. His sizing to me is the key factor, having seen him make large bets on bluffs before after playing other streets passively. So I go ahead, it's $145 more, laying us about 2.33 to 1. And he is for sure probably the only player at the table I would consider making this call. It's not the worst call I've ever made, especially if our 2 overs are good. I only have about 150 left behind. Rather than shoving it all in case there's a really terrible river, I decided to save myself a little bit of money. The river decides to come the Jack of Hearts. Not exactly the card I was looking for. He does go all in now. It's 145 effective. Sad part is, now we are back in the same spot. We are pretty much just bluff catching. I could fold and save $145, or I could tank for a while and then decide to call. Villain shows us ace 10, and I scoop a $700 plus pot. Either he knew I wasn't strong here, or he thought I had an overpair and was trying to turn his hand into a bluff. I suspect the latter, and he was trying to turn his hand into a bluff and thought we had an overpair. But I guess I ran better than I should have here. But either way, we'll take it. Let's go on to the next. I've noticed recently it seems like there's a theme of the vlog where after I win a big pot, I tend to dunk off chips in the very next hand. In this one, I pick up pocket nines and only lose $15, thankfully. But I go on to miss a recording, and I apologize for that. I have 7-9 of clubs, hit a straight, win a decent sized pot, and our stack is now $875. And now in the big blind with 2 limps, I get pocket kings. Let's go. I'm out of position, so I'm going to make it $20 here, and everyone folds. Okay, let's get back to something a little bit more interesting and juicy. I'm in the cutoff, and I look down at ace queen offsuit. With 1 limp, I raise to $15. Big blind calls, so does the limper, which is the Asian villain from the king jack hand. Flop is 2, 4, 6 with 2 hearts. The action checks around, and we see a turn that is the queen of clubs. Interesting to see, the big blind now leads for $25. Middle position, villain calls. I think there is merit in raising here, and maybe I should be raising a good portion of the time. I think as played though, I am well ahead of these two, and I'm looking to see what develops on the river. So I just go ahead and call. The jack of spades is the river. The big blind leads again for $50. I'm pretty sure I have the big blind beat here. He has maybe some type of queen X, although I block that. Our middle position villain, though, raises now to $175. This is all around weird and interesting, as the jack brings no straights or flushes, and only queen jack hits 2 pair, which I block. I think middle position discounts me on a draw possibly when I check flop and just call turn. He is known for making big bets to steal pots, but as it's as likely he played a set this way also. The strength of my hand is just so concealed here. I don't like folding, so as played, I have to look it up. Now I go ahead and call, and the big blind is in the tank, and he also makes the call. What? Middle position villain quickly shows us 3-5 of hearts for the flop nuts with a straight flush draw. I showed because I wanted to see the big blind's hand. He said he didn't even have me beat, which I was correct there, but man, this is what I mean about this villain. He can show up with some random stuff. Table's getting a little short-handed at the moment, and I look down in the big blind at pocket queens. Let's go. But sadly, we only get 1 caller pre-flop after we raise $17. It's a bad run out, so we only get 1 bet of $15, and that's it. We end up winning about $30 in this pot. Let's get back into something interesting, although this hand just baffles me. I am under the gun, and I raise to $20. The gentleman in the purple hoodie, who is a older gentleman I've never played with before, decides to make the call, and we go heads up to a flop that is ace queen 2. Pretty good flop for me. Top pair, top kicker. I go ahead and continue betting for $25. He takes a moment before raising us to $75. The board's not very wet, so with his age, never playing with him before, pretty clearly here I feel like he just has ace queen, maybe queens, and maybe even deuces. I don't see him raising with anything else. All of those hands have us beat, but I don't really like folding, so I go ahead and just make the call. The turn is a jack. I decide to check, but now he checks back, which is interesting to me. The river is a brick, and I'm not sold yet that I have the best hand, so I check. But now when he checks back the river, I'm like, oh, well, I'm good. I say ace king, but before my hand can hit the felt, he shows us ace queen. Why he checked it down after raising the flop, I don't know, but I won't be calling any more of his raises, I can tell you that much. Here I am in the big blind, and there's a straddle on the button of $4. I go ahead and look down at 6-8 of diamonds, and rather than just complete the straddle, I decide to bump it up and maybe push out some players behind me, so I raise it to $16. I end up getting 2 callers, and we hit 3 ways to a flop that's 7-9-7. Flopping an open-ended draw on a paired board, not bad. I elect to go ahead and continue betting to $20, and both players call, which is not good news. The turn is the 3 of hearts, and now I check. The cutoff bets 40, and the button calls 40. Now with pot odds, I mean, there are lots of reverse implied odds here because even if I hit my straight, somebody could have a full house. But I go ahead and make the call. The river is an ace, and we don't hit our hand, so I check. Cutoff bets 40 again. The button calls, and I fold. This 1-2 game kind of breaks up and dries up, and I'm not playing the best, so I decide to take a reprieve and switch to a 1-3 No Limit Holdem game. There is a limp under the gun and a raise to $20, and on the button I look down at pocket sevens. I go ahead and just call the $20 in position. It gets back around to a buddy of mine, Andy, who was the limper, and now he goes all in for $96. The old limp re-raise. The original raiser decides to fold, and I decide, you know what, this is my last hand. I've been playing for about 6-7 hours. Let's just go ahead and run it. I make the call. Andy agrees to go 2 full runouts. He shows us pocket queens. We're dominated, but there's always the poker gods, right? We see a flop of 4, 6, 9 with 2 spades. A turn is a 5. Oh my goodness, let's go. We have an 8, a 3, or a 7. Can we hit it one time for this? No, it's a 5 of diamonds. Let's go to the second run out, even though a lot of my outs are killed for straights. Let's go 4, deuce, 6. Turn is a jack, but the river is a deuce, and we go ahead and lose this pot.
Okay, so that was quite the day. We hit peaks of $850 stack and then end up cashing out, sadly, for $371 for a profit of $71. But it was a exciting day, ups and downs. There was a lot of action, a lot going on, a lot of players there. I really like the club. I mean, it's really done well. I feel like there's some things that they still need to work out, a few kinks, but it's overall, it could really be Houston's prime spot to play poker. But we're gonna go ahead and get up out of here after, well, 8-hour day, but we had to stand in line for an hour until we got in. But as always, if you guys are looking for some action, check out this video, hit that like and subscribe. We're headed to the moon this year. I'll see you guys next week.